Welcome to Camp James P. Wilder, an old abandoned campground with some strange stories to tell. Stick around and I'll share some of them with you. The camp got its name from James P. Wilder himself. Donated this land in the late 60s. By the 70s, it had become a camp for kids. They would load up on their buses from the cities, and they would come up here to get away, to get out into nature, and find themselves. It's always a whole lot of fun, until it wasn't. First body went missing in 1972. June 13th to be exact. That cabin right over there used to be a bunkhouse. That night there were 8 kids between 7 and 10 years old camping in that bunkhouse. And with them, they had William Schrudy, 16-year-old counselor. So young he hadn't even gotten his driver's license yet. And as the story goes, sometime around midnight, they started to hear the howling. A loud howling. And just above the sound of the howling was the sound of a woman's voice that was shrieking. Of course, the kids weren't going to go take a look at that. That job was left to William. William put on a sweat jacket, headed out the door. The kids say that 15 minutes later, the howling stopped. The woman's voice stopped shrieking. But William never came back. Kids were too terrified to go get help. They could hardly move. It wasn't until the next morning that a search crew went out looking for William. They never found him. Rumor is he still lives up in the woods here somewhere. Or maybe his spirit does. You would think that would be enough to close this place down. Not quite. And everything seemed to go back to normal. Until 1974. By then, of course, kids wouldn't come back here. By then it was mostly a camp for teenagers. And on this particular day in early August, it's a group of Boy Scouts who would come to this place. On that night, there was a group of Boy Scouts that were camping up here. 3 of them were leaning against the walls to this building. And as the story goes, the Boy Scouts that were still here said they heard a loud chainsaw sounding like it was cutting through metal or a chain link fence, and it was deafening. And 3 of them were standing against the walls of this building right here. There were 2 eyewitnesses. They claimed that the walls disintegrated like they were made of sand. And the roof came crashing down on top of those 3 young Boy Scouts. They, of course, recovered their bodies. But again, rumor is they still haunt this forest back here. But this wasn't the last story here. There was one more before they finally closed this place up. Over here's the mess hall. 1975. Again, it was a group of Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts seemed to be braver than most. They were eating breakfast. Everything seemed normal. Nothing out of place, nothing strange. When out of nowhere, a young boy, Joseph Taft, got up and started screaming. Picked up his fork and his knife, was waving them at the air and howling. And then he ran out the door. Of course, the counselors chased after him. He ran straight up the hill here, found himself a trail, and just started running. Counselors were a few hundred yards behind, but they were in hot pursuit. William turned a corner when the trail trailed to the left, and not more than 20 to 30 seconds later, they turned that same corner, and he was gone. All they found was a knife and a fork in the middle of the trail. They never found him either. After that, they closed this place down. Now it's rare you see another soul up in these forests. You're probably asking yourself, are these stories true? What do I know? I'm just a teller of tales. What's my name, you might ask? It's William. William Schrudy.